Ow!
And therefore, my lord, I submit that it is wrong to launch out into a trial of all the issues at once. The accused, my client, is a child of only 13 years. Now, being under 14 years, he is presumed not to have the capacity or the mental responsibility to commit a crime. The issue of whether or not he does know or did know at the material time that what he did was right or wrong should be tried separately and should be tried first.
Now, Miss Tate, there may be a number of issues. There may, for all I know, be an issue as to diminished responsibility. It would be wrong, surely, to hear evidence as to this child's state of mind in order to decide whether he knew right from wrong, and then perhaps to hear the evidence all over again as to whether the defence of diminished responsibility applies.
My submission is, my lord, that it is wrong for a child who is presumed not to have the moral responsibility for his acts to be subjected unnecessarily to a long trial about other issues.
Yes, but you're begging the question, Miss Tate, when you use the word unnecessarily. If the child does know right from wrong, then we must hear the defence so that the jury can decide whether or not he did what it is alleged that he did. Surely that follows.
I see, my lord.
I call Jane Langton.
Jane Langton.
There's nothing to be afraid of. Now, let's see. You're Jane Langton, and you're 11 years old? 12? I don't think I quite heard that, you know.
12, sir, your lord.
Yes, now, don't worry too much about what I'm called. I just want you to speak loudly and clearly so that the jury can hear what you have to say. Now, Jane, you know the difference between truth and falsehood, don't you?
Yes.
Well, now, what's another word for falsehood? Can you tell me?
It's telling lies, stories.
Mm-hmm. And the truth?
The truth's what's real, what really happened.
Hmm. You go to church?
Sunday school.
Uh-huh. Now, both Mr. Lloyd, whom you know, and Miss Tate, sitting over there, who is counsel for the defence, are going to ask you some questions. Now, I want you to promise me that no matter what they ask, you'll answer them truthfully. Can you do that?
Yes.
Good. Yes, very well. Let her be sworn.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the testimony in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I promise before Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Now, members of the jury, when young children give evidence, great care must be exercised, and their evidence must be carefully scrutinised. It's for me to decide whether a child should be allowed to give evidence and take the oath, but it's still your task to decide what weight to give that evidence.
So, Jane, for a first question, where do you live?
25 Court Avenue, Maplefield, Colchester.
I see, on what's popularly known as the Maplefield housing estate, is that?
Yes.
Now, is there an old hall near to the estate, and do you and other children from the neighbourhood play there from time to time?
Yes.
Now, were you playing there on June the 4th last, Jane? That was a Saturday.
I think so.
You only think so? You're not sure?
I mean, I was, yes. That day I was playing with Philip Ainsworth and Tommy Vincent. It was the day...
Now, Jane, all we want is for you to tell us about this in your own words. That's not too hard, is it?
But But I already said it before, sir, to that other court.
That's right, the magistrate's court. Now, this evidence we must hear again, I'm afraid. It's highly important. Now, come along, Jane.
You and Philip and Tommy Vincent played a particular game that day, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Now, what was that game?
It's called Rexers.
Rexers? Now, what are Rexers?
Well, it's a game about robots that come down to take over the Earth. Philip invented it. He was always trying to get people to play it with him. The Rexers come down to Earth and kill most of the human beings. The ones that are left are rounded up and taken to the secret Rexer base to be exterminated. That day I was a Rexer helper, and Tommy Vincent was a human who'd been hiding in the desert. Philip was Rexer in chief. He took Tommy prisoner and tied him up. Then he got out this plastic bag and...
I see, and then no matter what you said, Jane, Philip wouldn't remove the plastic bag from Tommy's head, is that right?
Yes, I said, "You'll hurt him, Philip." And he said back, "I don't care, the Rexers are supreme."
I don't care, the Rexers are supreme. Those were his exact words?
Yes.
Now, did you try and do something then to help Tommy Vincent?
Well, he couldn't breathe properly anymore. I could see that. I said to Philip, "Take it off his head, you'll kill him." Then I made a grab to get the bag off myself. But Philip just pushed me away.
Did he say anything else as he did that, Jane?
Yes. He said, "What if you're about things like that?"
Now, Jane, this is very important. You're quite sure, are you, that when you warned Philip that he might actually kill Tommy Vincent, he said, "What if I do kill him? What does it matter about things like that?"
Yes, your lord.
What did you do then?
I got frightened. I ran to get some help.
You really thought that Philip meant serious harm to Tommy, did you?
Yes, so I got some people. Only when we got back, Philip wasn't there anymore. And Tommy was...
Yes, thank you, Jane. We needn't go over that again. Suffice it to say that Tommy Vincent was dead. Well, only two more things then, Jane. Now, first, the electrical cable that Philip used to tie Tommy up with and the plastic bag. Now, where did he get these things from? Did he find them lying around in the building somewhere?
No, he had those in his pockets.
He brought those things along with him, you mean, intentionally?
My lord.
Yes, Mr. Lloyd, that is a most improper question to ask, particularly of a juvenile witness. You know that very well.
Yes, I'm sorry. Anyway, Philip had the rope and the plastic bag, Jane. He didn't just find them.
Yes.
Now, again, you knew both Philip and Tommy Vincent fairly well, didn't you?
Yes.
Were they good friends?
Oh, no, they were always quarrelling.
What about, Jane?
About the Rexers most of the time. Philip always wanted to play Rexers, but Tommy thought it was a silly game. Babyish. He was always taking the mickey out of him.
Tommy used to laugh at Philip about the game.
Yes.
And did that make Philip angry?
Oh, yes.
Now, was Philip angry on the day of the tragedy, June the 4th, Jane? Had he and Tommy quarrelled on that day?
I don't know, really. They were playing when I came along. When Philip said I could be in the game, Tommy said, "Couldn't we play something else?" Because he was sick of Rexers. That made Philip, well, excited. He said the game had to go on because it was the day he'd sworn Tommy would learn the Rexers were supreme.
The day he'd sworn that Tommy would learn the Rexers were supreme. That day, June the 4th.
Yes.
I see. Thank you, Jane. That's all.
Jane, did you often play with Philip Ainsworth and Tommy Vincent?
No, not very often.
Well, I'm surprised you played with them at all. I mean, at your age, don't you usually prefer to play with other girls?
Well, Beverly, she's my friend from school. She was supposed to be coming over, but her mother rang up to say she had a cold and couldn't come. So I didn't know what else to do.
Well, it's odd, don't you think, that if Philip Ainsworth had intended any serious harm for Tommy Vincent, he should have asked you along as a witness?
My lord, the witness is being asked to comment.
Yes, Miss Tate, that is a comment that you can yourself make at the appropriate time when you address the jury.
As your lordship pleases. Did you know Philip and Tommy from school, Jane?
No, they go to Falchester Boys High, and I go to Mapleford Comprehensive.
I see. Then if you very seldom played with them and you don't see them at school, how can you tell us with such confidence that they were always quarrelling about the Rexers?
Oh, everyone knows about that. All the children said so.
All the children said so. Now, Jane, in court we have to be most careful that we don't merely repeat what other people have said. That is called hearsay. All we're allowed to speak about is what we know ourselves, what we've heard or seen ourselves. Now, do you understand?
Yes.
So then you can't tell us from your personal knowledge that Tommy and Philip were enemies, can you?
No, but
No.
they didn't like each other.
Well, about the Rexes, you say Philip invented these.
Yes.
What sort of things were they exactly?
Oh, big things, very big. Strong, made of metal, I think. They come down to take over the earth.
Rather like those other creatures we see on television occasionally, the Daleks.
No, not like Daleks.
Not like Daleks.
No.
Well, how do they differ exactly? Can you tell us?
Daleks talk, don't they? Have funny voices. The Rexes aren't like that. Rexes can't speak. They make sort of rumbling noises. They run people down and squash them, and nobody can do anything against them.
They aren't intelligent, in other words. They're just machines.
Yes.
I see. And so on the day of June the 4th, I think you told us that Philip Ainsworth was playing the role of Rexer-in-Chief.
Yes.
The role of a machine that couldn't think without any knowledge of what it was doing.
He still spoke to me in the hall after he tied up Tommy. He said those things I said to Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, Jane, but whatever else he said, deep down he was intent upon the game, now wasn't he? He was a machine, a blind machine, relentless and unstoppable.
So as Philip Ainsworth's form master at Fulchester Boys High, you conducted certain IQ tests. How did he rate in these?
Very high. Very high indeed. He's a most intelligent boy.
Can you put a figure on it?
Well, the figures don't give you the whole story, you know. But 150, 150 plus. If you need a standard of comparison, I can add that 170 to 180 is exceptional. Anything beyond that, genius.
So Philip Ainsworth, in fact, was one of the most intelligent boys in the school.
Yes.
Now, in your experience, Mr. Quinnell, is a high level of intelligence generally coupled in the individual with a developed capacity to distinguish right from wrong?
You mean, are the clever ones the clued up ones morally, something like that?
If you care to put it like that.
Well, it's arguable. Environment figures pretty heavily in things like this, you see. And there are plenty of very intelligent young thugs around who are thugs simply because they've never been encouraged to use their brains instead of blunt instruments. But in general, I suppose you can say that the higher the IQ, the keener the capacity to distinguish right from wrong, yes.
Now, would you have expected a boy of Philip Ainsworth's intelligence to have a highly developed capacity of this sort?
Oh, yes.
And did he, in fact, at any time when you were teaching him, demonstrate to you that he did not possess such a capacity?
No, not that I recall. If Philip ever broke the rules, he seemed to understand that he'd done something reprehensible. I mean, he never gave any evidence of not understanding what it might mean to lie, steal, something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Quinnell.
Mr. Quinnell, did you always find that Philip Ainsworth's schoolwork came up to the level of his intelligence?
You're asking, was he inclined to slip back, slack off occasionally?
Yes.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, he was. It puzzled me at first. There were curious lapses, almost an inability to work from time to time. I put it down to just laziness, until I discovered that there was a certain amount of trouble at home for him.
Trouble at home? What sort of trouble at home?
Well, I never completely got to the bottom of it. Philip was never forthcoming. But there had been a divorce, apparently. He's an only child, and apparently doesn't get on too well with his mother either.
He had emotional difficulties, in other words.
Well, you could put it like that, yes.
Are you acquainted with the educational theories of A.S. Neal, Mr. Quinnell, who hold that emotional development is more important to a child than intellectual development?
I've never bothered too much with the theories of education. Too busy teaching boys.
Quite. But in a boy of high intelligence, would you expect to find an active imagination?
They sometimes go hand in hand, yes.
Some intelligent children have an imagination strong enough to carry them away, perhaps.
Well...
Would you say that Philip Ainsworth had such an imagination?
Look, I'd agree it's sometimes a matter of restraining Philip's ideas rather than stimulating them, yes. He can make the most extraordinary imaginative leaps. He surprised me sometimes. You see, his main trouble is he's never learned to discipline his intellectual gifts.
Because of his emotional problems, perhaps. Thank you, Mr. Quinnell.
No further questions.
You may stand down, Mr. Quinnell.
I call Martha Ainsworth.
Martha Ainsworth.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the testimony in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Martha Audrey Ainsworth, and you live at 16 Laverock Close, Maplefield.
I am.
And you are the mother of the accused, Philip Ainsworth, are you not?
Yes.
Now, Mrs. Ainsworth, you live alone with your son, is that correct?
Yes. I divorced my husband 5 years ago. He lives in Canada now. He's married again.
Yes, I see. Now, you've come here today to give evidence for the prosecution, that is to say, against your own son. Now, may I ask you first if you do this of your own free will?
Yes. Absolutely no compulsion has been used to get me to speak here today.
May I ask you why you're doing this?
Well, I made up my mind it was important to speak the truth. What I know to be the truth, that is. I can't say if Philip did this terrible thing he's accused of or not. But what I do know is there are things in Philip.
Mr. Lloyd, I think it would be better if you were to question the witness in some order rather than allowing her merely to speak as she feels. Do you feel well enough to continue, Mrs. Ainsworth, or would you appreciate a brief adjournment?
No, I'm all right now, thank you. I'm sorry.
Very well, continue.
Mrs. Ainsworth, what sort of a relationship have you had with your son in recent years?
Bad.
Why is that? Can you tell us?
Well, he's just so surly with me. Withdrawn. Can't even be polite most of the time. And then, of course, he's so spiteful.
Spiteful?
Yes. If I try and correct him, and it's only for his own good, anything I say to him, then he'll just turn on me.
Turn on you in what way? Physically?
Oh, no. No, his revenge would take the form of, well, breaking things. He's very knowledgeable about machinery, so he'd interfere with the vacuum cleaner so it didn't work, or take something out of the washing machine. Just terrible.
And he means that as a hurtful act. He knows it causes you pain, but he still does it.
You could tell by the expression on his face. He once even told me it was all part of a campaign to get me to take him seriously about the Rexers.
The Rexers?
Yes. They're a tribe of idiotic robots Philip's invented. They're invading the Earth or something, and we're all supposed to take heed. Just before this happened, he seemed to be spending every spare minute on it. His room was full of specifications and diagrams. Every so often, I just used to go in and clear the lot out.
Did you do anything else about this obsession of your son's, Mrs. Ainsworth?
Yes. Well, I thought he might be sick, so I approached a doctor.
A psychiatrist, would that be?
Yes. Dr. De Quincey. It was arranged for him to go to sessions, so he went. Doctor couldn't find anything wrong with him. So then I knew that all his stupidness and his stubbornness and spitefulness, well, it must be deliberate. Well, it's like animals, I suppose. My father used to breed dogs when I was very young, and he used to say, every so often you'd find one you couldn't do anything with, one you couldn't train no matter how hard you tried.
Mrs.
Now,
Ainsworth, is that what you truly feel about your own son, that he's beyond helping?
Well, I don't know about the future, my lord, but as for the past, well, I've had things proved to me, haven't I?
Proved?
With your lordship's permission. Mrs. Ainsworth, after the death of young Tommy Vincent, were you going through papers and so on in your son's room on one occasion?
Yes.
And
Yes, just to clean up, I thought I should.
I see. And did you find there certain documents that you'd like to tell us about?
Yes. Yes, they were in a bottom drawer, in a file. It was marked Rexers, top secret.
Will you look at this file? Is that the file you've just mentioned?
Yes, it is.
My lord, this is Exhibit 1. It contains certain drawings marked Rexor's Mark IV Definitive Design. There's also a loose-leaf diary.
Well, these documents now in the file, they were in it when you found it,
Yes, my lord.
and you recognise them as belonging to young Philip.
Yes.
I'd like the top drawing from the file to be displayed for the jury to see, if I may. Now, this is Philip Ainsworth's drawing of a Rexor. You will see by its size, its capacity to crush and so on. The extensions that look a little like wings are in fact part of a telescopic web system by which the Rexor may trap any who attempt to escape its lumbering force. And the web is apparently made of strengthened plastic. The date on the drawing is June the 4th, which is the day of the tragedy. There's a corresponding entry in the loose-leaf diary. Mrs. Ainsworth, will you read it out, please?
June the 4th. Report of Rexer-in-Chief. The invasion of Earth has begun. A note on the humans who laugh at us. These must be dealt with individually. As an example, the boy Thomas Vincent laughs at us. The advantage we Rexers have over humans is that they need to breathe, and we do not. Therefore, Thomas Vincent must be shown that we are supreme, because we do not need to breathe. This is an order. Destruct. Destruct.
The case of the Queen against Ainsworth will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court. Philip Ainsworth, aged 13, is accused of murdering a 12-year-old schoolfellow, Tommy Vincent. Philip's mother, Martha Ainsworth, is giving evidence for the prosecution.
A note on the humans who laugh at us. These must be dealt with individually. As an example, the boy Thomas Vincent laughs at us. The advantage we Rexers have over humans is that they need to breathe and we do not. Therefore, Thomas Vincent must be shown that we are supreme, because we do not need to breathe. This is an order. Destruct. Destruct.
Thank you, Mrs. Ainsworth. Will you wait there?
Mrs. Ainsworth, I have to ask you a number of questions, some of which may be upsetting. I do regret it, but it's unavoidable. Now, you tell us that your relationship with your son had been bad in recent years.
Yes.
Well, what sort of period of time is involved there?
Oh, well, that's difficult to remember. Perhaps 4 or 5 years.
5 years. That would be since the time of your divorce, would it not?
The divorce is over and done with now. I don't see there's any point in
Since
going
the time of your divorce, Mrs. Ainsworth.
Well, the divorce upset Philip naturally. It always does a child, but it was absolutely necessary, and things were a good deal easier all round. Afterwards, I got custody naturally. Philip didn't miss his father. He was always very severe with him, withdrawn.
What were the grounds for divorce, Mrs. Ainsworth?
My lord, I'm bound to ask if this is strictly necessary. Mrs. Ainsworth's divorce is obviously a painful memory for her, and hardly relevant.
No mistake. I must say I've never myself seen the point of opening up old wounds if it can be avoided.
With respect, my lord, Mrs. Ainsworth says she got custody of Philip naturally, and I was wondering if there was perhaps any legal battle between husband and wife which could have upset the child.
Yes, I think you could speak to that much, Mrs. Ainsworth.
No. No, as a matter of fact, no battle at all. My husband simply conceded custody, and that was the end of it.
You mean you would have preferred him to contest it?
I beg your pardon.
I think you heard the question, Mrs. Ainsworth. Would you have preferred it if your husband had fought you for custody of Philip and he had perhaps won?
You can't suggest... It's ridiculous.
I see. Now, as to Philip's preoccupation with the Rexers, did this date from about the same period, 5 years ago?
Oh, no, that was much more recently, 2 or 3 years ago.
But again, it was after the divorce. There's no question of that.
Look, it's absurd of you to keep on insisting that my divorce had anything to do with his invention of these absurd robots.
I'm not suggesting anything, Mrs. Ainsworth. I'm just asking you questions. You were concerned about the Rexer question so much that you took Philip to see Dr. De Quincey, a child psychiatrist.
Yes, that was 18 months ago.
And Dr. De Quincey said that you tell us that he found nothing wrong.
Nothing whatever.
How long was Philip attending Dr. De Quincey's clinic, Mrs. Ainsworth?
Well, that's hard to remember. Perhaps 3 months.
That would be how many individual sessions? Half a dozen? 8, perhaps?
No, 3. Yes, it would be 3, 1 a month.
Only 3 sessions to deal with what you regarded as a major sickness.
Look, I didn't regard it as anything at all. I was just worried. Dr. De Quincey failed to find anything wrong with Philip.
Did Dr. De Quincey want to see Philip again after these first 3 sessions?
Yes, he did say he thought there might be something else to be discovered.
But you chose not to take Philip along.
Look, it was a long way to go. Dr. De Quincey required me to go as well. It meant putting the whole afternoon aside, and it was all getting nowhere.
How do you mean, Mrs. Ainsworth?
Well, the only effect these sessions seemed to have on Philip was to make him concentrate even harder on those stupid Rexers.
Philip was a burden to you, wasn't he?
No. I mean, all children make demands on their parents. It's only natural. It's just that with Philip, well, it was exceptional. You'd have had to have experienced it. I mean, right from the beginning, it was trouble.
From the very beginning? You mean from the day he was born?
I didn't say
Mrs.
that.
Ainsworth, did you actually want Philip when you conceived and bore him?
My lord, that question is entirely unjustifiable.
On the contrary, Mr. Lloyd, I find it completely irrelevant just at this point. We have a right to know as much as possible about the accused's domestic background.
My lord. Well, Mrs. Ainsworth, did you want Philip when you conceived and bore him?
It's ridiculous to talk about wanting and not wanting a child. It's never as easy as that. Gordon and I were very much in love. We thought a child might cement our marriage.
So the pregnancy was intended?
Naturally, what else?
Is that the whole truth, Mrs. Ainsworth?
Look, my lord, why do I have to answer all these questions? They've honestly nothing to do with this case.
That is for the court to decide, Mrs. Ainsworth, and his lordship is courteously reminding you that you are on oath.
I'm very well aware of that. It's just that you've got no right to ask these sort of questions. Gordon and I were never remotely suited to one another. It was all a mistake that we ever got married. Then I found I was pregnant. That meant there was a child to consider. That's awful. You try, but it just gets worse. Eventually, Gordon went. Only he didn't take his son with him.
You are Dr. Malcolm Chisholm of Carver House, The Grove, Fulchester.
I am.
You are a practicing psychiatrist.
That is correct.
Will you tell the court your professional qualifications?
I am a doctor of medicine, specializing in child psychiatry, a part-time psychiatric consultant to Fordmore Prison Hospital, advising on the detention treatment of disturbed prisoners.
Have you had an opportunity to examine the accused in this case, Philip Ainsworth?
Yes. After his arrest, Philip Ainsworth was detained in custody, and I was asked to provide a psychiatric report on him. In all, I've had 5 sessions with him.
Which, in your view, were sufficient to give a reliable indication of the accused's state of mind?
Quite sufficient.
Well, perhaps you could tell us about those sessions, Doctor.
Yes, I first saw Philip Ainsworth on June the 15th, 11 days after the alleged offence. I had been called in specifically because the boy seemed to have lapsed into a withdrawn, incommunicative state, which from all accounts was getting worse.
Do you mean by that he was depressed, moody?
Well, nothing was very clear. The police surgeon was baffled because the symptoms you might expect to accompany depression or traumatic withdrawal weren't present. For instance, Philip was eating well and was physically active during recreation periods. He simply couldn't seem to communicate with his guardians in any meaningful sense. Now, it's to be remembered at this point, I think, that Philip had made no statement whatever to the police at the time of his arrest. He was discovered late in the evening of June the 4th, hiding in a wood. Neither then or at any other time has he said a word either admitting or denying guilt to anyone. In fact, there was only one subject on which he could be persuaded to open his mouth at all: the Rexors.
Now, what was your general impression of Philip Ainsworth at the first session, Doctor?
At first, I thought him stupid. He gave every indication of being intellectually below par, a subnormal creature caught up in some lurid, impossible fantasy. This impression was reinforced at the second and again at the third session. But of course, by this time, I'd learned from other sources that Philip was actually a highly intelligent boy, good academically, and nobody's fool. So I appreciated that something was seriously wrong.
Wrong with the accused, that's to say.
Wrong with me. It isn't entirely without precedent for the patient to pull the wool over the doctor's eyes, you know.
Are you saying, Dr. Chisholm, that in the sessions you had with him, Philip Ainsworth was attempting to deceive you?
I'm saying he very nearly succeeded. He gave a most convincing impersonation of a hapless idiot driven to blind violence on a schoolfellow by irrational compulsion.
But how is that possible, Doctor? Apart from anything else, a boy of 13 would hardly have the experience of life to carry off such an impersonation, would he?
Age doesn't come into it, nor, more surprisingly perhaps, does the kind of experience you speak of. There is a psychological reality known as the Ganser syndrome. It's named after Dr. Abel Ganser, who in 1898 discovered that under stress, certain kinds of people find the ability to impersonate hysterics. Ironically enough, Ganser made his discovery whilst observing prisoners awaiting trial. The signs are always the same: a display of extreme stupidity coupled with a total apparent lack of intellectual comprehension. Movement into the syndrome seems automatic. A person doesn't actually need to have observed hysterics to get the appearance right.
But if that's so, Doctor, how can you say with certainty in this case that Philip Ainsworth was faking hysteria and wasn't actually exhibiting signs of genuine mental disorder?
Books had been left for him to read. Philip affected no interest in them. At the fourth session, I left a copy of 1984, which was a book I'd been told by his teachers he particularly liked. What Philip didn't know, however, was that the pages had been coated with a chemical powder, which would show under later analysis whether or not they had been touched or turned. At the fifth session, I removed the book. Analysis showed that every page in the book had been fingered. It had been read through and through, every word. Philip Ainsworth was pretending neurosis, shamming.
Now, before counsel for the defence cross-examines you, Dr. Chisholm, there's something you might make clear for me. Are you saying that you think that the accused's entire fantasy about the Rexors, the robots coming to take over the Earth and so on, was a mere cloak for murderous intent?
No, my lord, the fantasy clearly grew up at an earlier time and then was found useful. Such elaborate inventions aren't abnormal in teenage boys.
Aren't abnormal?
No, complex and detailed worlds of the imagination are almost what you'd expect from intelligent youngsters. What went wrong here, I suggest, is that a jealousy, a hatred of the boy, Tommy Vincent, arose, and the accused saw a way of striking out at him under cover of fantasy or delusion.
And this assumed fantasy or delusion indicates to you, does it, that Philip knew perfectly well what he was doing at the time?
Yes.
Yes, I see. Proceed, Miss Tate.
My lord. Dr. Chisholm, you would say that it was not abnormal for a teenage boy to develop a murderous hatred of a fellow?
Well, let's say it happened. Tommy Vincent laughed at Philip Ainsworth. That's often extremely painful when you're only 13.
Yet a teenage boy who worked out a subtle plan for disposing of this hated schoolfellow, merely because he laughed at him, he must be accounted for as emotionally disturbed, surely.
Well, I haven't, of course, denied the presence of emotional disturbance in Philip Ainsworth. But my observation of the Ganser syndrome in the accused makes it pretty clear, I should have thought, that the basic sense of discretion remained unimpaired.
Your observation Of the Ganser syndrome, Doctor. It depends a lot on your planting of that particular book of yours, 1984, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And yet, can you swear that the accused actually read the book?
I'm sorry?
Well, all the fingerprints prove is that the book was handled, toyed with.
The finger marks are mainly at the bottom of pages and on every page, therefore indicating some form of systematic progress through the book.
Did you ask Philip Ainsworth if he'd read the book?
No, I didn't do that.
Why not? Were you so desperate to believe your trap had been sprung? What I'm saying is, you can't state categorically that the book was read. Now, can you, Doctor?
No, but it can't be
Thank
ignored.
you. That's all I wanted to know. Now, as to Philip Ainsworth's fantasy about the Rexers, these machines taking over mankind, now, did you not discover this to be a genuine conviction that the accused most passionately held?
That is the impression he tried to give, certainly. It is my judgment he was acting.
So the accused demonstrated one pattern of behavior and you chose to assume another?
Not chose to assume, reason to.
Well, you would accept, Doctor, would you, that it is possible occasionally for the patient to pull the wool over the doctor's eyes?
Yes.
Well, is it not possible, then, that you, Doctor, blinded yourself to the patient's true condition?
That is an impertinent question.
Well, such a thing has never happened in the entire history of psychological medicine.
Oh, many things have happened in the history of psychological medicine. Psychiatry has had to survive much mockery and contempt to become an acceptable science. I dare say it will survive yours.
No further questions, Doctor.
No re-examination.
You may stand down, Dr. Chisholm.
That completes the case for the prosecution, my lord.
I call the accused, my lord, Philip Ainsworth.
Just one moment. Miss Tate, if you wish the accused to give evidence, I must satisfy myself that he knows the difference between right and wrong.
My lord.
Now then, Philip, do you know what a lie is?
Yes, my lord.
Well, give me an example of a lie.
Saying I'd been at school when I stayed away.
Is it wrong to tell lies?
Yes.
Yes, very well, let him be sworn.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the testimony in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I promise before Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Philip, when you were playing with Jane Langton and Tommy Vincent on June the 4th, did you go into an old hall on the Maplefield housing estate?
No, I didn't.
Now, Philip, you've just sworn to tell the truth.
Yes, my lord.
And that wasn't the truth, was it?
Yes, my lord.
But you did go into that hall.
No, my lord, I didn't go into the hall on that day. It was the Rector-in-Chief went into the hall that day. All the time, it's the Rector-in-Chief doing things. Everything.
So it was the Rector-in-Chief who was doing things on June the 4th, Philip, and not you?
Yes.
Now, what can you recollect about that day?
Well, just vague things, not very clear.
Well, let's talk about them anyway. Now, Jane Langton has told us that she saw you tie Tommy Vincent to a pole and then secure a plastic bag over his head. Now, is that true?
The Rector-in-Chief only really wanted to frighten Tommy at first, for not taking him seriously.
Now, that isn't answering the question, Philip, is it? Is what Jane Langton told us she saw true?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Jane then warned you that you might hurt Tommy, and you said, "I don't care, the Rexers are supreme."
The Rector-in-Chief is very angry at Tommy. Terribly angry.
Please, Philip, let us just establish the basic facts. We must know what you understand about what happened.
The Rector-in-Chief did it. That report that was read out from my diary, that was the Rector-in-Chief too. Not me. The Rector-in-Chief was there more and more all the time.
In spite of you, you mean, taking over your personality?
Yes.
Did you have any choice about this, Philip?
Choice? How do you mean choice?
Well, I mean, could you stop the Rector-in-Chief from taking over?
No, I couldn't do anything about that.
I see. Now, when Dr. Chisholm had his sessions with you, after you'd been arrested, did you understand?
No, it was bad all that time. Most of the time, I didn't know what he was talking about.
Did Dr. Chisholm leave a book for you to read at a certain point in the session?
Yes, there was a book, that's right. 1984 it was.
And did you read it? Read it with understanding?
It was pretty hard reading just about that time. I'd read it before, so I think I remembered bits. What I knew was I had to pretend to finish it.
Now, why was that, Philip? Why did you have to pretend to finish it?
Because the doctor had left it for me. He must have meant for me to read it.
You were simply trying to be cooperative, to obey the doctor's orders?
Yes.
Now, I've now to ask you a few more personal questions, Philip. Tell me, have you been happy living with your mother? Now, please, Philip, I do need an answer to this.
It's been quite bad, really. When my father was at home, they were roused all the time. Since he's been gone, I can't seem to do anything right. That's the trouble. I can't do anything right for my mother.
Did you ever think that your mother never really wanted you, Philip? Now, please answer me, Philip. It's important, or I wouldn't ask you.
Yes.
Now, when exactly did you invent the Rexers, and can you remember why?
The Rexers. I started to make up about the Rexers 2 years ago. I don't know why for sure. There'd been something in my head for a long time about robots. Not robots that are sort of like people, or the way they are in comics sometimes, but robots that are more like themselves, machines.
Machines, yes. Now, you have a very high regard for machines, don't you, Philip?
Machines are good. Better than people.
Better than people?
Yes.
In what way?
Machines can't get hurt, can they? Even if they get smashed up or broken. They don't hurt, don't have pain. But people do, so machines are better. They're not so weak.
Were the Rexers ever able to think, Philip?
No, they were just machines. Machines can't think.
And on the day that you tied Tommy Vincent to the pole and secured the plastic bag over his head, you genuinely believed that you were the Rexer in chief?
Yes.
I see, Philip, thank you. Stay there.
Well, Philip, an extraordinary delusion, this Rexor business of yours. Totally compelling while it lasted, but now conveniently gone away.
I'm not sure it's all gone away yet. I'm still a bit mixed up in my head about it. It's just better now, that's all.
It's not likely to cause the deaths of any more innocent schoolfellows, eh? Philip, why did you hate Tommy Vincent so much?
I didn't hate him, sir.
Oh, come on now. You were always quarrelling, weren't you? At school, when you met at home?
No, that's only what Jane thought. She got...
Philip, why don't you just admit it? You disliked Tommy Vincent intensely. You hated him.
Well, he wouldn't let me alone, not ever. He was always laughing at me.
At you? Laughing at you?
Yes, all the time, every day practically.
Now that's strange, because I thought it was the Rexor in chief he laughed at.
That was later on, when I began to know properly about the Rexer in chief. I just meant to say...
Yes, Philip, I think we all know what you meant to say, but you fluffed your lines, didn't you? You forgot your words. I think these are faults that we all understand in relation to acting.
I'm not acting, sir, I'm
Dr.
not.
Chisholm thinks you are. Dr. Chisholm thinks you have been all along.
Well, Dr. Chisholm doesn't understand. He only got the idea I was acting because of his trick with that stupid book.
Ah, yes, that copy of 1984 that you solemnly and systematically pretended to read.
Because I thought Dr. Chisholm wanted me to.
Yet you touched every single page, Philip. You made marks throughout the entire book. And that was only a pretence.
I tried to read it.
Yes, of course. But you still haven't said why you hated Tommy Vincent.
I tell you, I didn't hate Tommy Vincent. It was just that he was such a big fool.
A big fool?
Yes. He couldn't be told about anything. He wouldn't understand about machines. Of course they're better than people. Of course they're taking over the world. It isn't just make-believe about the Rexers. One day, soon, we'll all have to make up our minds which side we're on.
The case of the Queen against Ainsworth will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.
I call Gordon Anthony Ainsworth, my lord.
Gordon Anthony Ainsworth.
Philip Ainsworth, aged 13, is accused of murdering Tommy Vincent, a 12-year-old schoolfellow. The defence has called Philip's father, Gordon Ainsworth.
What is your religion?
The Church of England.
Take the testament in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Ainsworth, you are the father of the accused, Philip Ainsworth.
That is correct.
And how long is it since you've seen your son?
Oh, well, that would be about 4 years now. Yes, I last saw Philip about 6 months after the divorce, just before I emigrated to Canada.
Where you have since remarried, I believe.
Yes.
Mr. Ainsworth, can you tell us, please, if the period of your divorce was a particularly bad time for Philip?
Well, it was always bad for Philip, you know. I mean, right from the start. My ex-wife and I, we didn't hit it off at all. It was ridiculous. We'd never married. Philip got the backwash from both of us. Martha didn't really care for the boy, and as for me, well, I see now I just took it out on him.
You took it out on him?
Yes.
In what way?
Look, what I meant was I was pretty desperately unhappy. When you're in that sort of state, you're inclined to look around for a scapegoat. I chose Philip. That's not to say I was especially tough of the mind, except on one occasion maybe, but I was cold, distant, I guess. I just wanted him to keep his proper place and cause no trouble.
But did Philip, in fact, cause trouble? I mean, was he a difficult child?
He'd act behind your back, you know, meddling with things.
Meddling?
Yes, machines, principally. He had a passion for machines.
Now, you told us that you were particularly strict with him on one occasion. Can you tell us about that, please, Mr. Ainsworth?
Yes. I'd begun to have just about enough of Philip's messing around with things. I tried scolding him and whacking him even, but it didn't seem to do any good. Then it happened I bought a new car. It was for business mainly. I was a sales rep at the time. It was a Saturday, I remember. I just finished cleaning the car and was back inside the house when I heard this odd clanging sound. I went out again, and there was Philip with a spanner in his hand, hitting out of the car.
Hitting out?
Yes, he'd got this spanner from the toolkit, apparently, and tried to loosen a couple of nuts. And when they wouldn't turn, it seems he just began to hit the car over and over. All along the offside, the panels were damaged, pitted.
So what did you do, Mr. Ainsworth?
I almost lost my mind. I'd never seen such wanton destruction. I grabbed Philip, thrashed him. Harder than I've ever done in my life before. Harder than I like to think about now. He screamed. And as it happened, that's just about the last contact we ever had.
The last contact. Now, what does that mean, Mr. Ainsworth?
Well, it frightened me, you see, the whole thing. What Philip had done and how I'd reacted. So that, as it were, brought my other problems to a head. I saw that the time had come for me to make other arrangements with my life.
Leave your wife and son, you mean?
Well, what else was I to do? I mean, everything came back to the bad situation between Martha and me. Together it seemed we were destroying each other and having a good bash at wrecking Philip too. With only one of us, well, he might stand some kind of chance.
But after the incident with the car, you knew you didn't want that one to be you.
What?
Now, please, Mr. Ainsworth, you've been admirably frank up till now.
All right, so I left the whole mess for Martha to clean up if she could. I was supplying the money. That seemed to me enough just then. But you've got to remember how frightened I was, genuinely. I didn't understand things anymore, and I certainly didn't want to end up killing anybody.
Or by having anybody kill anybody else, presumably. Now, Mr. Ainsworth, from the time you left home until the finalization of your divorce, did you make a practice of seeing Philip frequently?
No, hardly ever. I kept away, in fact. It seemed best.
So, therefore, your last act as his father was to punish him severely, more severely than ever before, in fact, for his violence with a machine. Mr. Ainsworth?
Yes. Yes, I guess so.
Thank you, Mr. Ainsworth.
Mr. Ainsworth, during the period you were living with your ex-wife and Philip, did you try and instill into him a clear sense of right and wrong?
You mean teach him how to behave himself?
Yes.
Oh, well, certainly. I tried to bring him up right, yes.
And did Philip at any time give you the impression that he did not possess a clear sense of right and wrong?
He couldn't seem to stop meddling with those things around the house, no matter how I told him
Yet
off.
did he demonstrate to you in any way that he didn't know that these were wrong things to do?
No.
Nor that he was not acting wrongly in damaging your car?
Oh, no. That time I'm certain he knew he was doing evil. The moment he saw me, he was terrified, tried to run for it. I'm sorry now about what happened, but he brought it on himself. No doubt of it.
No further questions?
You may stand down, Mr. Ainsworth.
You are Dr. Mark de Quincey, consultant child psychiatrist at St. Winifred's Hospital for Children, Fulchester.
I am.
Do you know the accused, and have you had occasion to examine him?
Yes, about a year ago, his mother brought him to see me as a child who was becoming unmanageable at home. I had only 3 sessions with him.
Is it your meaning that you would have liked to have more sessions, Doctor?
I would indeed, but his mother grew impatient and brought the treatment to an end.
Why exactly would you have liked more sessions, Dr. De Quincey?
Well, I found him in psychiatric terms gravely disturbed, but there was nothing I could do.
Before we go any further, Doctor, would you tell me, please, when you encounter a patient who you consider to be gravely disturbed, is there any means of compelling psychiatric treatment?
No. Psychiatry is based on the free approach of the disturbed subject to the doctor.
Now, did you in this case warn Mrs. Ainsworth of what might happen if the treatment was discontinued?
I told her that the responsibility was out of my hands if the treatment was stopped.
I see. Now, Dr. De Quincey, you've told us that a year or so ago you saw Philip Ainsworth and you considered him to be gravely disturbed. Now, have you seen him recently?
Yes. During the period of his custody, I was permitted to see him twice. It was quite sufficient to convince me that nothing had changed.
But in court today, we've been told by another psychiatrist, Dr. Chisholm, that Philip Ainsworth is in fact not disturbed at all. He is in fact acting, illustrating something called the Ganser syndrome, by which a normal subject may impersonate a hysteric.
No, you can only invoke something like the Ganser syndrome when every other explanation has failed. In physical medicine, it is only after you have demonstrated that the limb is not broken or internally bruised or whatever that you can permit yourself to think that the subject may be shamming.
Well, are you saying then that Dr. Chisholm's observation of Philip's condition wasn't strictly comprehensive, Doctor?
Psychosis is the result of conflict within the person. Very well. But this usually takes the form of delusions which are recognizable as belonging to that person. Delusions of race, if it is a black man, say, delusions of disease, if it is someone who fears illness. Now, Dr. Chisholm observes Philip and cannot single out any one of these things. So he concludes that the psychosis must therefore be a fabrication.
But you consider this to be an unjustified conclusion.
Well, the fact is that psychotic delusions can quite as easily mirror the anxieties of the society the subject lives in as his own private fears. In the Dark Ages, people were unsophisticated and terrified of invisible powers. As a consequence, psychotics at that time were possessed of devils. It was a very common syndrome.
Well, are you telling us, Dr. De Quincey, that something similar in 20th century terms has happened to Philip Ainsworth?
Machines have transformed the life of man. They have conferred great benefits, but they have also complicated our lives extraordinarily. They have confused men by doing so many things so much better. So subconsciously we fear them.
Is this merely a personal view of yours, Doctor, or is it held by others in your branch of medicine?
Oh, I can quote authorities, certainly.
You see, I'm wondering why, if it exists, this syndrome should be visited in what would appear to be otherwise a perfectly ordinary boy.
Philip is hardly a perfectly ordinary boy from an emotional point of view. Due to his family background, he lives in an emotional vacuum. He has encouragement for his delusions, of course. Always in trouble all his life for tampering with machines. Then his father beats him savagely for breaking a motor car. That proves to him, if proof were needed, that machines are more important than people, better than them.
And it was as a result of all this, you'd say, that he made his invention of the Rexels.
It's a question of identification. Unwanted and isolated, Philip had to belong somewhere. Well, he saw he could become a machine, functioning without painful thought, unable to suffer. That is the real meaning of the word Rexels. It's Philip's way of saying to the world, I have ceased to be human. I accept the world's evaluation of the machine above the person.
But does this explain why, on June the 4th last, he tied up a young schoolfellow and caused his death by suffocation?
I think I can help the court with that. But it means I should have to ask for a deviation from what I understand to be the normal procedure to do so.
And what's that, Ray?
I would like to place the accused under hypnosis and ask him certain questions.
But Lord, I object to this. May I ask the witness where exactly he thinks he is?
My Lord, Dr. De Quincey is convinced that there is vital evidence still to be gained from the accused. But this evidence is suppressed information and can only be elicited by hypnosis.
Is the doctor aware of the nature of this evidence?
Well, only in very general way at the moment, my lord. He was not permitted to continue with hypnosis before, but it would appear to be that June the 4th was a very critical date in the life of Philip Ainsworth.
Mr. Lloyd?
My lord, my expert witness, Dr. Chisholm, suggests that there is a possibility that suppressed information may be gained under hypnosis and that Dr. De Quincey should be allowed to proceed.
Well, members of the jury, it's right that the defence should have every opportunity to present the evidence they wish. I therefore intend to permit the defence's expert witness to carry out further examination of the accused under hypnosis.
All right, Philip. You are looking very well and comfortable. Now just relax. I want you to look at these funny old spectacles. All right? You are going to sleep for a while. I'm going to ask you some questions which you will answer honestly. Then when I say wake up, you will wake up again. All right? Now go to sleep. You feel at peace. Your eyes are tired, sleepy, relaxed. Sleep.
Yes, he's under.
I want you to cast your mind back to June the 4th. Can you do that? June the 4th.
June the 4th. Saturday.
That's right. I want you to tell me what you did that day, everything you recall.
In the morning, went shopping for my mother. High Street.
The High Street. Go on.
Just going into shop when car came round corner. Yes, going fast. Other car pulling out from curb, then...
What happened?
Accident. People hurt. People running. The man bleeding badly. Couldn't breathe. Others hurt too. Blood. Ambulance. Only one's all right.
Yes?
The car's all right. Smashed a bit, but not choking, not bleeding.
And there was nobody you could tell how you really felt? Not your mother? Nobody close enough who could understand?
The Rexer-in-Chief knows. All those who laugh at the Rexers are wrong. The boy, Thomas Vincent, is wrong. Today, order for the day, destruct. The Rexer-in-Chief knows what to do. The Rexer-in-Chief understands. The Rexer-in-Chief gives the order for the day, destruct.
I see, Dr. De Quincey. All this was revealed under hypnosis.
Yes, my lord.
And in your view, this has a bearing on the accused's mental state at the time of the killing.
I believe it shows that he was not in a state to be responsible for his actions.
Mr. Lloyd?
Dr. De Quincey, let's just get one or two things straight. Now, the prosecution has at no time denied emotional deprivation of one sort or another in the accused Philip Ainsworth. Nor does it now wish to deny a degree of fantasy in him. But what it does deny is that this deprivation, this fantasy, was strong enough to rob him of all moral sense and hence of responsibility for his actions.
Then I can only say I disagree.
Well, disagree all you wish, Doctor. But the cold fact is, a boy is dead. And we're here to settle whether it was murder or some kind of psychological accident.
It was not murder. You cannot call it that.
You wouldn't deny, would you, that the accused expressed intent to kill to his companion Jane Langton, to his diary, even at the very moment of committing the act?
The intent was clearly psychosomatic. Philip Ainsworth, as I've tried to show, was obsessed with machines.
And machines, of course, have no moral sense.
No.
Nor can they in any way be held responsible for their actions.
No.
But Philip has frankly admitted to this court, Doctor, that he invented the Rexors. Now, did he veer between two personalities? Is that the way you'd put it?
No. The machine personality would have been constant, even if sublimated a good deal of the time.
That sounds really most convenient, Doctor, but there seems to be no explanation for the fact that Philip's teacher at school, his mother, his father, and Dr. Chisholm all insist that Philip shows every sign of knowing right from wrong.
Philip saw his body as a mere series of functions. Now, that would include functions of thought and conduct judgment up to a point. Why not? All machines have a programming to obey.
Except, of course, when machines develop murderous hatreds for their schoolfellows and do them mortal injury.
That is no way to look at it.
Isn't it? Do you still persist in your view that it's impossible that a cunning little criminal has deceived you?
There's what you've just heard in the hypnosis session. There's no possibility of deceit there.
But you see, that proves nothing beyond the fact that the accused has certain emotional problems. Dr. Chisholm is convinced that Philip Ainsworth was consciously trying to deceive him.
Dr. Chisholm is in error. Dr. Chisholm is behind the times. For enlightened psychiatrists, grave emotional disturbances preclude what you mean by responsible behavior. The kind of doctor who thinks otherwise is the kind of doctor who, not so very many years ago, would have flogged lunatics to cure them.
Thank you, Dr. De Quincey.
You may stand down, Dr. De Quincey.
That completes the case for the defence, my lord.
Mr. Lloyd.
Members of the jury, the facts of this case are not disputed. Philip Ainsworth certainly caused the death of Tommy Vincent by tying him up and suffocating him with a plastic bag. The only two questions are, 1, did he know what he was doing at the time? And 2, did he know what he was doing was wrong? Now, first, we've heard Philip Ainsworth say that he didn't go into the hall. It was the Rexor-in-Chief. But we've also heard that Rexors are machines who don't speak. Yet Philip Ainsworth clearly spoke to Jane Langton. He said, "What if I do kill him? What does it matter about things like that?" And when Jane tried herself to remove the bag, Ainsworth thrust her aside, clearly demonstrating he wished Tommy Vincent to suffer. I put it to you that it is plain he did know what he was doing. Now, as to whether he knew what he was doing was wrong, Philip's mother, his father, and his schoolteacher have all told us that he knows right from wrong. And remember, after the crime, he ran away and hid in a wood. Now, why did Ainsworth do that, unless he knew what he'd done was wrong? We've heard how later he attempted to deceive Dr. Chisholm, but more important than Philip Ainsworth being a cheat is that he's a killer. Tommy Vincent is dead. Now, it's up to you whether Ainsworth has the opportunity, possibly, to kill again. And whatever personal sympathy you may have for him, you must find him guilty.
Miss Tate.
Members of the jury, Philip Ainsworth is a disturbed child. You must remember this at all times. Unwanted by his mother, deserted by his father, he lives in what has been described as an emotional vacuum. He is also a psychotic and suffers from the strangest of delusions that he is a machine and that machines are taking over the world. Quite plainly, therefore, he could not have understood what he was doing on June the 4th, nor appreciated the natural and probable consequences of his acts. He had just had the experience of an accident which struck at the very heart of his disturbance. He became the Rexor-in-Chief. He wrote in his diary as the Rexor-in-Chief. And then he met Tommy Vincent, a boy who laughed at him, laughed at the very idea of machines taking over the world, and this was all too much for him at this critical time. Members of the jury, on June the 4th, Philip Ainsworth was in the same blind, unthinking condition as that of a runaway train. He spoke like a human, perhaps looked like a human, but he was a machine, and in the same way he did not know that what he was doing was wrong. Now, if you find Philip Ainsworth guilty of murder, ladies and gentlemen, then you are saying that for the lightest possible reasons, mere schoolboyish mockery, a highly intelligent boy cold-bloodedly murdered a schoolfellow. In my submission, the proper verdict is clear, members of the jury. It is a verdict of not guilty.
Now, members of the jury, the defence have not disputed that the accused, Philip Ainsworth, tied up a younger boy, Tommy Vincent, placed a plastic bag over his head, and that as a result, Tommy Vincent died. Now, there are 3 points on which you must be satisfied beyond all reasonable doubt before you can find the accused guilty. Now, firstly, you must be sure that he was really conscious, aware, and mentally in control at the time. Did he know what he was doing, or was he, because of some strange delusions or fantasies, like a sleepwalker, uncontrolled? Secondly, you must be sure that if he was aware of what he was doing, he foresaw that death or serious harm would result. And thirdly, you must be sure that if he knew what he was doing and foresaw what would happen, he knew that what he was doing was wrong. But if you feel that although he had some awareness of right and wrong, it was probable that he was suffering from such abnormality of mind as substantially to impair his responsibility for the acts which led to Tommy Vincent's death, then your verdict will be one of manslaughter. You will now retire and consider your verdict.
All stand. Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Just answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find the accused, Philip Ainsworth, guilty or not guilty of murder?
Not guilty.
Do you find the accused, Philip Ainsworth, guilty or not guilty of manslaughter?
Guilty.
Is that the verdict of you all?
Yes.
Mr. Justice Bragg ordered that Philip Ainsworth should be detained for life at the special unit of Fulchester-approved school. Next week, a chance to join another jury in assessing the facts when our cameras return to watch a leading case in the Crown Court.